Well, hello, Jets fans. This is GreenBean, and welcome back to another third day in a row late night vlog. Boy, oh boy, am I destroyed. I'm telling you, you guys, a lot of you were with us the last few days. Ryan, Matt O'Leary, and myself. About 19 and a half hours of live streaming in a really 2.5 day period. We're burnt. You should have seen us when we got on the call this morning for day 3 of the draft. We weren't even capable of communicating. That's how tired all 3 of us were. But here we are. And similar to Christmas, all this planning, all this excitement, you build up, you get there, and it's over. And you're like, what happened? What am I doing? I always thought Christmas should be more than one day with all the months of build up, right? So with the draft, at least we got 3 days. That much we can be grateful for. But nonetheless, we are on the other side of it. And we now know what the Jets were going to do. We know how it went. We know if we're happy, if we're sad, if we, meh, We know all that stuff. Now, right now, we're watching the Jets. When I'm recording this, we're watching the Jets put together kind of a lackluster undrafted free agent class. I'm very disappointed, but that's a whole other video, and I'll explain myself and all that. And I'm not going to let that ruin what has really been, in my opinion, an epic draft. But today we're going to talk about a very specific item that could not really be discussed until today. Today is the day that we can discuss it with some certainty. All of the data and information has been accumulated, acquired, viewed, and here we go. Before I do that, I want to just remind you, go ahead and take a second and like this video. And if you really want to do something good, I'm telling you, you're going to like it. You ready? Hit that subscribe button. That's the best thing you can do for a YouTube content guy like myself. And if you would like more exclusive content, a lot of private stuff, hangouts, access, watch parties, all that kind of thing, you can join my Patreon. Join the Beanbaggers. Come on and hang out with us in the Beanbagger group. That link is in the top of the description of my video here. And it helps the channel. It helps a great deal, more than you realize, quite frankly. So anyway, now that all that's behind us, let's take a look at this item for the day. Today is the day that we can actually look back at 2 years in the making, really a little bit more than 2.5. We now know what we've gotten for the Jamal Adams trade, the Sam Darnold trade, and because I love you, I'm going to throw in the Chris Herndon trade. Why not? Now, you could add McClendon, Williamson, Jared Willis, all that stuff. It's all part of it, but let's just focus on the 3 big ones. And let's take a look, and we'll see exactly what it is that Joe Douglas has done. Now, just a little recap here. I remember when the trade for Jamal Adams, which did happen first, came down the pike. I was fresh and new in my RV lifestyle. I was driving across the country with my wife and kids. I'm fairly certain we were in Kansas. Driving through Kansas, heading west. My phone goes do-do-do-do-do-do, the whole thing. And she says, oh, there's a trade. I said, oh, tell me who the trade is. What is this? Because I was driving. And she says, Jamal Adams traded for a 3rd round pick. And I went, what? Get out of here. I'm like, no way, man. My son perks up from his headphones. Wait, what? So she opens up the article and she says, oh, no. The Jets gave Jamal Adams and a 3rd or a 4th for 2 firsts and a 3rd. And I was happy right then. Right then, we talked about it on Jetnation. I made a few videos about it. A lot of Jets fans were upset because they said we're going to have to wait 2 years to find out how good this trade is. And they had a point. Jamal Adams, as we know, the past 2 years, he's been okay, but he's been disappointing. They wanted to get an all-pro player. That's not what they've gotten. They did get a good guy, but he's been disappointing, I think, as far as by comparison to the trade. So that happened, but we didn't know. Then we go ahead and we trade Sam Darnold. Sam and Jamal were supposed to be the the poster boys of the New York Jets' future. Now they're both gone. We trade Sam Darnold for a second, a fourth, and a sixth round pick. The sixth round pick being in the 2021 draft. So, what do we get for these guys? What does it look like? We lost an all-pro. Jamal Adams was a two-time all-pro. One-time first-team all-pro, one-time second-team all-pro. But two-time all-pro nonetheless. And Sam Darnold was the franchise savior. So what did we get for these two guys? So the Jamal Adams trade, as we know, had a first in each of the last two drafts. Last year, we also had that third-round pick as well. We used that third-round pick and another third-round pick to trade up in the first round last year and grabbed Elijah Vera-Tucker, our starting guard. He was left guard last year. He's moving over to right guard this year. I mean, unless something crazy happens with him, it looks like an amazing pick. Consensus best guard in the draft last year. So many people are excited. He played excellently last year. So we're really happy with AVT. And then we have this year. What did we get? We had the Seattle first-round pick, which when we made the trade, many thought was going to be in the late 20s or 30s, 28, 29, 31, maybe even 32. And it turned out that they had an implosion, lucky for us, and we had the 10th overall pick from the Seattle Seahawks, who have not had a record this bad in a decade. I think it was Pete Carroll's first year was the last time they had a record like this. So we took wide receiver from Ohio State, arguably the best wide receiver in the class. You know, you had the Jameson Williams, you had the Drake Londons, and then Drake London was taken before Garrett Wilson with the Atlanta Falcons. But there was also the chorus saying Garrett Wilson was the number one wide receiver in the draft. So the Jets had their choice of every wide receiver in the draft other than Drake London, and they took Garrett Wilson. So now the Jamal Adams trade, with all the moving and shaking and everything that went on, looks like this. The Seattle Seahawks, who don't forget, also had our fourth round pick this year. They got a fourth round pick in that trade. So the Seattle Seahawks get Jamal Adams, obviously, and they got Kobe Bryant, cornerback from Cincinnati. As you guys may or may not know, that was Sauce Gardner's partner in the defense. Isn't that interesting? So there was still a little quasi connection with the Jets and Seahawks here in a weird roundabout way. So they get Kobe Bryant and Jamal Adams, and the Jets got AVT, Elijah Vera-Tucker, and wide receiver Garrett Wilson. How'd we do? Do you like it? We gave away a defensive loudmouth who really didn't have very much impact on the game. He had his plays, right? He's a good player. We're not going to take that from him. But a lot more of this. A lot more talk than walk. Fair enough? Fair point. And obviously at the end, too, he was such a grumbler. He was such a crybaby. So they got rid of him, who, you know, for minimal impact to the team. And we brought in a starting guard to protect Zach Wilson and a wide receiver for Zach Wilson to play with. I personally think it's fantastic. I do. I think it's a great, great trade. Probably the best trade in a long time, over a decade for the Jets. I mean, you know, you have the Keyshawn Johnson trade, right? We got 2 firsts for Keyshawn. You know, I don't know. I don't think there's a trade that really compares other than that one. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's just not coming to my head right now. So there you go. Now, the Sam Darnold trade is interesting because we got picks spread over 2 years as well. Now, last year, we only got the 6th round pick. Now, check this out. It's not as cut and dry as you would think to figure out who we got for Sam Darnold. Now, technically speaking, the Jets didn't use the pick that they got for Sam Darnold. That ended up being pick 226 in last year's draft, 6th round pick. The Jets packaged pick 226 with pick 162, sent that to the Chiefs for picks 175 and 207. With those 2 picks, we got Jason Pinnock at 175, and we got defensive tackle Jonathan Marshall with 207. Jonathan Marshall, we haven't seen much, played sparingly last year, did get his first NFL action last year, so that's positive. But he did have a perfect 10 relative athletic score, which is probably why Joe Douglas drafted him. in the 6th round like that. He said, hey, look, man, the guy's, the athleticism is hard to ignore. We did hear that, so we brought Jonathan Marshall on. Now, this year, we had pick 38 and 111. That's what it ended up being. Another situation where when we made the trade, the Panthers weren't supposed to be back at the top of the draft. So we got the 6th overall pick in the 2nd round from the Panthers. Not too shabby. And an early 4th as well. So we ended up taking, surprisingly, running back Breece Hall, the consensus. Now, of course, not everybody, but 9 out of 10 people out there, evaluators, pundits, everybody, they were calling Breece Hall the number 1 running back in the class. So the Jets decided, throwing caution to the wind, we could take this guy. We could try to push running back to the 3rd or 4th round like we have been. They said, no, we're going up. We're getting our running back. The running game is important to this offense. We already got our tight ends. We got a wide receiver. We're getting the best running back for us. Now, they grabbed Breece Hall. Breece Hall, who had just about 1,800 all-purpose yards last year, 1,472 on the ground, plus he had another 3 change in the air. But here's the crazy thing. He had 23 touchdowns last year. He had 23 touchdowns the year before. He had 10 the year before that. He had 56 touchdowns in 3 years in college, and I guess they value that in a running back. Imagine that. Touchdowns. Ooh. Hey, let's score some touchdowns this year. Ooh, this is fun. It's going to be fun. So we brought in Breece Hall with pick 38. Then we had pick 111. It was our final pick with the Sam Darnold trade. We're getting all crazy. And what do? We grab offensive tackle Max Mitchell, 6'5", 300 pounds, who is fantastic, man. There are many people out there that think within a year he could be a starter. And that's the perfect kind of offensive lineman that you want to draft in the mid-rounds. Like, look, you can get your first-round offensive lineman. Then there's a bunch of pressure on them, and they should start. They should be a higher pedigree up there and everything. But generally speaking, most of the great offensive linemen in the league are found in the 3rd to 6th rounds. That's where they come from. And for many years, especially guards, they weren't taken in the 1st round. You'd get like 1 a year taken in. Even last year, I think, or this year, we only had 1 or 2 taken in the 1st round, something like that. Guards, that is. So it's important to get number 1 versatility. Max Mitchell can play guard and tackle. He practiced at both this year. The Jets met him at the Senior Bowl. They had time with him. They liked him. They worked him out at 2 different positions. And you bring a guy in the 4th round. He might not be ready to start right now, but that's fine because guess what? We have tackles that can start right now. We even have 2nd-string tackles with NFL experience in Connor McDermott and Chuma Edoga with starting experience. We're good. This is what we talk about when we talk about the pipeline. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's a perfect pick. Now, if we can't figure it out with George Fant next year for an extension or what have you, or Becton gets hurt again, you already got your tackle. There you go. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, okay? So then, as a bonus, let's talk about Chris Herndon. It turns out that Chris Herndon pick that we got from the Minnesota Vikings, don't forget, we did give them a 6th as well. We got a 4th round pick, which ended up being pick 117 for Chris Herndon, and we got defensive end at Texas A&M, Michael Clemens, who Joe Douglas called one of the nastiest people in the entire draft. It's nice. Now, some of his issues say that he's a little bit stiff, he lacks bend, but he makes up for it with power and tenacity. And here's a comment from an NFC personnel scout, or wait, what does it say? The scouting director for an NFC team. I'm not going to worry about him being kind of stiff in his rush because he's long and he's strong. Those traits start in our league. Hey, 7 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss last year in the SEC. Not too shabby. He did have a 4-sack game against LSU, I think it was. So, hey, man, we're backing up Jermaine Johnson pick with another defensive end. I can't complain about it. I did want somebody else. I was hoping they got Brandon Smith or somebody. It's fine. It's a good player at a position of need, And this is what they're saying. It's going to give us the versatility to do what? Move JFM back inside where he's best suited. So there you go. So the trades are done, guys. What do you think? Do you think they were good trades? Were they bad trades? How are you feeling about them now that we know the players? Let me know in the comments. Guys, thank you for watching. Have a great night. And go Jets.